Okay guys, so this is day 3 of coronavirus lockdown. If you're still tuning into my channel, you're probably crazy, but whatever. We're gonna get started. Basically, the news in California here is, so I can keep everyone updated because that's the point of this channel, is that the colleges have shut down permanently. Classes are still going on, but teachers are loosely taking attendance and they're not really doing much with it, and they can't really provide this homework, so there's really nothing going on. So definitely boredom central over here. And Disneyland, of course, as always, since that's the top thing on my brain, is closed, so that's definitely a sad face emoji. But it's okay, we'll all live. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk to you about The Yellow Wallpaper. It is my favorite short story by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, and it is about a woman who is suffering from postpartum depression, put on the rest cure, etc. You understand what I'm talking about. In the next video, we're going to talk about all of this and more. And that's a sad face emoji still. And let's see, colleges are shut down. We can't go to the library no more. We can't have face-to-face contact. And my dance rehearsal has been closed. No more dance performance. So, very interesting stuff happening in California. This pandemic has really got us all, woo! So, without further ado, today I'm going to be sharing with you my very favorite short story called The Yellow Wallpaper. This is a short story by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, and without further ado, swipe left and we can start discussing it. As promised, we will start discussing The Yellow Wallpaper. Now, The Yellow Wallpaper, as I stated in the first video, is a short story by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Now, Charlotte Perkins Gilman did suffer from postpartum depression, and in The Yellow Wallpaper, we will discuss what it means to have been prescribed the rest cure. Now, the rest cure was something that you would have been prescribed back in 1892 if you had been suffering postpartum depression, anxiety, etc. You understand? Okay, basically most doctors or men didn't want to deal with women complaining about their lives, and boom, sent them on the rest cure. Now, most women found this not helpful, and their voices weren't heard. Basically, like every other story. So this was a story that she basically wrote as an autobiography about her experience, and she kind of embellished some of the things to make it more interesting. So let's dive into some of the key aspects you need to know to understand The Yellow Wallpaper. Number 1 would definitely, in my opinion, be the room. The room is, I would consider, very Edgar Allan Poe, Gothic style. This yellow wallpaper is very elegant, yet creepy at the same time. It has been scratched. She claims the room is a nursery, yet the reader really doesn't feel that way. There's bars on the window, the bed is chained to the wall. At the top of the stairs where the room begins, there is a gate, and it is locked. She is not allowed to leave. She is not given the privilege to go. And we can assume that there might be some chains on the wall. The scratches do not really lead me to believe that this would be a child's room. Now, back in 1892, yellow wallpaper was very common for a child's room, so kind of contradicts itself. Okay, so the next thing I want to discuss is the fact that her husband is her practitioner, her doctor. He's there to care for her. Now, in the story, and as I bet as a listener right now, you seem very happy about that. But the problem is she's not dealing with something that prescribes a rest cure. Yet, that's what he prescribed for her. So, as a reader, we're sitting there wondering why he asked her to lay in her bed. Don't read, don't write, don't go outside. He's kind of having this out of sight, out of mind mindset. He's never really there. When he is there, he's making sure she's not doing what he told her not to do. Don't read, don't write, you get it. Basically, he's controlling. And this is entertaining the idea that the male protagonist here is controlling this woman, this dainty woman who can't help herself. So she fantasizes a woman in the... So the next thing I think I'll discuss is the thing that's plain as day. The woman that sits in the wallpaper. Now, as you read in the middle of the story, if you haven't read this story, I would highly recommend it. But as you read in the middle of the story, she starts to see a woman in the wallpaper. Now, as a reader, we break this down and we say, hey, the woman is probably her and she's seeing her own shadow. and which is very common. As children play with their shadows when they shine lights on the wall, it'd be the same thing for her. At night, when her husband's asleep, she creeps. Now, the word creep is used a lot. Creeping, that's what she calls the woman in the wallpaper. The woman in the wallpaper is creeping. Now, I honestly think, as a reader and reading this story multiple times, that she's actually the one creeping. Now, the woman in the wallpaper at the end of the story does, as she would call it, you'd have to read it, it's quite an intense. To give you a synopsis of basically what happens at the end, because you can't really understand the story fully until I describe it. Basically, her husband comes in and the door is locked. He would like to see his wife, the door is locked. And she has creeped a hole basically into the wall. She's tore the wallpaper off in this charade of angry, I can't deal with my husband telling me I can't do anything, and she's ripped the wallpaper off. And so she's creeping. That reader, especially us, can make this out to be so many different endings. But there's a couple different things that I'll discuss in the next slide that might illuminate what actually went on in that last scene, because multiple people have talked about it. So the first one I'm going to discuss with you is definitely not the plainest day one, and I've definitely read a lot, and I've read different sites that don't really say this is it. But being a science major, this is where I go when I read, and this is kind of what I understand there. The yellow wallpaper would have been sold with a chemical called sulfur. Now, if you're aware of what sulfur is or what sulfur does when it gets heated up, then you would understand where I'm going with this. The yellow wallpaper sits at a window where the sun is in direct light. Now, when sulfur gets heated up, it creates a gas. And this gas has no smell. The same way people tell you, oh, if you leave your oven on, you're going to smell eggs. This gas has no element that'll find, and at least I hope you find surprising, arsenic. Now, arsenic was used mostly in brighter colored wallpaper. So, I hate to say it, but usually the people who had the most money would have the brighter colored wallpaper, and they ended up having arsenic in their wallpaper. Now, if you look it up online, people were told not to touch the wallpaper, and, kids, they can't resist it. So, they had to choose something that wasn't as toxic. They went with sulfur. The yellow color of sulfur helped with the yellow essence of the wallpaper. Now, in this story, in the next slide, I'll discuss basically what happened to the woman with the sulfur gas kind of being released. Okay, so basically what happened to the woman in the yellow wallpaper is over a period of time. Now, she's at a summer home, and she talks about how it's crazy that her husband was able to find it and that it was so cheap and all this other stuff, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. But basically, this heat that's been released on this yellow wallpaper for a long period of time would have caused a gas. Now, a yellow wallpaper wouldn't have a ton of sulfur, so that gas would slowly release. Now, a slow release of poisonous gas, sulfur slowly turns people delusional. Now, when you look it up online, it does say sulfur can kill you over time. So, a slow release of this sulfur basically is killing her. Now, if you look it up, it's not going to say this online about this, but this is my personal opinion. At the end, she's basically on death. She's going to die because she's had so much poison from the sulfur. So the next thing I'll discuss, since I already talked about the fact that she probably died of sulfur poisoning, is the fact that her husband was able to, if you want to say find a home, a summer home, back in 1892 for a decent price. Now, basically, this gives me a faint feeling that we're talking about something a little bit creepier. Why is the house so cheap? Why is the room got bars in it? I mean, lots of questions. And the point of this story is really to ask all those questions and have you figure them out. The nice thing about Charlotte Perkins Gilman is she left it open-ended. She didn't end this story with a happy ending like Disney. She basically left it up to you to choose what you think happened. So the second option is the fact that her husband collapsed. And her husband probably collapsed and he fainted because his wife was crawling on the walls. Now the thing about that scene and the way that Charlotte writes it is the fact that she says, and I state again because this is a very important part of this story, that she is creeping on the walls. and she says, I don't want to go back in the walls. So basically, she's stating that she is the woman in the wallpaper. And the funny thing about this story, and the great thing about when you read it, is you break it down as a reader. You are seeing it through your own eyes. And this is what I find when I read, and probably what you do when you read, but I like to fantasize and see it in my head as a little movie. I really wish they had a yellow wallpaper movie. Though it would be a short story, it would still be interesting. Now, in the next video, I'm going to discuss one last thing that I wanted to say about the yellow wallpaper. So basically, the last thing I want to discuss is the fact that this story really is open to your own interpretation. So the fact that I see that the woman could have been having sulfur poisoning is really just my interpretation on the story. So I really highly advise everyone to go and read this amazing short story and comment below on what you think, because honestly, it's the best story I've ever read. But that's just my opinion. My favorite book is The Great Gatsby. So if you want me to review The Great Gatsby in depth, kind of like I did with this, I didn't do it in depth. If I went in depth, it would be like 3 hours. But kind of review it. This is kind of probably confusing, but whatever. I will definitely do that. I'm just trying to sum up everything that I just did in the last like 13-minute video. But I hope you enjoy my channel. This is kind of new to me. I don't YouTube or whatever this is called, but whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm having fun with it, and I'm getting my mind off of Corona, which is what everyone should be doing. So stay safe. As I say at every end of every video that I make, stay safe, guys. Tomorrow I'll probably do something else. I don't know, make a purse. I don't even know. It's kind of going to be a mystery thing, but I'll figure it out. As I always state, hand sanitizer, wash your hands, hydrogen peroxide, Lysol, etc. You know what I mean. Basically, keep yourself safe. Wash your hands. I'm not even kidding, people. Wash your hands. It's not a joke. It's for real. These adults telling you to wash your hands, they're smart. Do it. And if you're not feeling well, of course, stay home, 14-day incubation period, no joke, and be safe. As I know, probably everyone's doing this anyways, so just keep it in mind. But wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. If you're not feeling home, stay safe. And if you're not feeling well, stay home so you don't get other people sick in the community. Basically what the CDC will say. But have a wonderful evening. Bye, guys. Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. If you're not feeling home, stay safe. And if you're not feeling well, stay home so you don't get other people sick in the community. Basically what the CDC will say. But have a wonderful evening. Bye, guys. Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. If you're not feeling home, stay safe. And if you're not feeling well, stay home so you don't get other people sick in the community. Basically what the CDC will say. But have a wonderful evening. Bye, guys.